Joy of love, so familiar to us now indeed, and a lovely hymn indeed. It still is 3 years later now since the World Meeting of Families when that was introduced.
Beautiful.
Good morning, welcome to Radio Maria Ireland. Thank you for your company here today on the radio and wave, and shout out to everybody on Facebook and YouTube as well. And good morning, Roisin.
Good morning, Father. Good morning, all.
Good, nice to have you here with us as well. Any news to share, Roisin, or any little items of interest to get us started?
Well, I had, if anybody has a story they want to tell, you can phone us up.
That's true, that's true.
You can text or WhatsApp at 089 467 2000 or email at info@radiomaria.ie or phone Thomas downstairs at 014123456.
You have them all off by heart.
Sort of, Father. No, I had a lovely chat with Ruth about different things done in the station here, just there the other day. So
very good, great, excellent, and nice to see the progress with the promotion. You're doing your own little bit of promotion as well. You had a lady visit your house yesterday, you were telling me, and you showed her how to download the app and connect in with the radio.
Oh, I did, yes, yeah. Well, she was organising a chair lift for me.
Very good, very good. That's all right too.
So she was asking me, like, what did I do? And I said, well, I didn't work at anything, but I helped out at Radio Maria. And I said, have you heard about it? No. So when she went around inspecting the house, I had the leaflet sitting just on the sideboard, and I said, great, I'll give her that then. And when she came down, I showed it to her, and I put it on my phone. You were talking on the phone.
Oh, was I on? I was, yeah.
Yeah, and she was delighted. She said, my mother will be delighted with that, she said.
Good, great, excellent. Well, that's a great tip for people, have a couple of leaflets lying around the house there, and who knows who might drop in and say the word and pass it on and talk to people.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know yet. I know it's sad, it's hard to understand that, but quite a few people still don't know, obviously.
They don't know, and it's hard to beat a personal recommendation. That if it comes from yourself, kind of one person to another, it's how the faith is passed on, the very same.
Yes,
very same. So do tell others about Radio Maria and show how to download the app, or again, the contact details there as well, and they can get in touch with us if Google us and find us without any bother. You don't have one of those Alexa gadgets at all, Roisin, no?
Well, now, to tell you the truth, Father, Seamus bought me one, but I've never used it.
Never used it. You don't talk to each other. Yeah, the Alexa thing is like if you can see on the camera now, I'm holding up the little red light that we have here on the table to tell us that we're on air. But it's that sort of shape and size, isn't it? It's kind of like a little thing that stands up on your table. But if you have Wi-Fi in the house, internet access, it connects to that, and then you tell it, Alexa, turn on Radio Maria Ireland.
You just speak to it and it works.
So that's another simple way of tuning into Radio Maria in the morning. You talk to your computer now. Of course, the only worry with it sometimes is it not just talking to it, but is it listening to everything else that's going on in the house? So if there's any blazing rows going on, or the dog is barking its head off, or Alexa's hearing all of this too. So
right, probably difficult. All right, Father.
Well, I did hear of a man who heard of this new invention where you can talk to it and it'll answer you and it'll look things up on the internet and so on for you. He said, I know where I'll keep my own, and I'll keep it in the bathroom. So if they want to be listening in, they'll get the full benefit of what goes on in the bathroom.
Not very exciting.
So that was a clever response. At any rate, I know Mary uses Mary Fitzpatrick, and there's others too who use those little Amazon Echoes, another one, and Alexa, where you can just tune in by talking to the little gadget in the corner if you have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's my son told me. Just ask it, Mommy, to do it, and it will.
And the other way is again, for people who might find the technology just hard to handle, to get it set up, get somebody in to set it up for you like that. But you can get an internet radio. Right. And again, if you have broadband, if you have internet access in your home, it looks like any other radio, but you can tune it in and you can get a gazillion radio stations on it, of course.
Yeah.
But you can set it up with Radio Maria Ireland on it and have it as one of your favourites and tune in whenever you like to tune in, anytime you want.
Yeah.
So there are ways and means, do you know, if it is that you find it difficult to tune in.
Oh yes, absolutely. And just to speak to Alexa and say, turn it on, and he does it.
That's right. That's pretty amazing. They have these funny little skits. There was one of them, a video to do with that idea of having Alexa, that it's a voice command is what they call it. So this guy in his lovely modern house with all his voice commands was turn on, Alexa, turn on the heating. And to turn on the heating, and Alexa, play whatever, my favourite music, and the music would come on, and then Alexa, I don't know what it was, some other, it automated the lights, I think, turn them on and off and so on. And so anyway, what does he do then? He's got all these commands, and Alexa will do everything for him, and opening and closing the door and the whole lot. So doesn't he head off to the dentist, and he gets an injection in the dentist, and because he can't sleep properly because his mouth is all, the way you so he comes home and it's lashing rain outside, and he's trying to talk to his computer to open the door, and he can't understand him, and he's wet and miserable, and the thing isn't working at all. So I know it was a bit of a skit on those
funny.
things.
You can't ask her to make the dinner or anything, can you?
Well, that would be nice. I'm sure the day is coming that you see these robots and things that are coming on around the place. They'll do a certain amount for you, I suppose. We're getting so lazy, I mean, really. But it's just, these are the modern conveniences of our day. And if it is indeed that you may know somebody who otherwise is technologically impaired, kind of struggling, but if there's Wi-Fi in the house, you can, an internet radio or an Alexa is just another option for you there as well. Now tomorrow the bishops of Ireland are making a pilgrimage to Knock.
Oh yes.
And I might just mention that again. We'll broadcast it here. There'll be a mass at 3:00 tomorrow afternoon here on Radio Maria Ireland. We'll connect in with the Knock Shrine website there. And they are coming together to celebrate and Holy Mass, and to remember all of those who have lost loved ones in the course of the pandemic, the last year and a half and that, and that they haven't had the opportunity or haven't really had the same support that we are so good at giving for people who have lost loved ones and been bereaved. So to pastorally support everyone who has suffered the pain of bereavement during the pandemic, and of course in the context of the month of the Holy Souls, this month too, the bishops of Ireland will undertake a pilgrimage to the International Eucharistic and Marian Shrine in Knock, and will there celebrate Mass for all those who have died in our country during the pandemic and for their families. So not just those who died as a result of the virus or the effects of the virus, but every which way, because we haven't had the same opportunity to come and sympathise and to come and be at Holy Mass for the deceased in the same way. So they will also offer prayers of thanksgiving for all those who so selflessly sacrificed so much during the pandemic as well. So do join with us here on Radio Maria. We'll broadcast that. You'll be able to hear it. Certainly, it'll be on the website for Knock as well, knockshrine.ie. And it's nice that some people have an internet access, but they have their Sairview television. Yes. They can hear it through the radio on the telly.
Yes,
figure that out.
Yes. Well, I saw Mass from Knock yesterday, Father, on the phone.
Oh, there you are. Yeah. There you are. The smartphone is too smart sometimes, but it's a very handy means, all right, to tune in. So that's a lovely gesture on behalf of the bishops of Knock. And you heard the news yesterday, throughout the last couple of days, Archbishop Michael Neary, the Archbishop, is retiring from Knock. And Bishop Francis Duffy from
right. You were saying a new Archbishop is coming. Yes,
is taking his place instead. Yeah, so it means another diocese will be in need of a bishop, and there'll be a new Archbishop for Tuam. So that's the west of Ireland, Elphin and Galway, and those dioceses in our Conry, I think, is in there as well for Tuam, the Archdiocese of Tuam. But we got a lovely welcome from Archbishop Michael ourselves. We went down to visit him January of, not this year, it may have been last year, but the pandemic has thrown all my memories, my synchronization of visits out totally. But we had a lovely welcome from Archbishop Michael that time.
Yes.
Might have been 2019 actually, because
it was a long time ago, I thought, Father. Yes.
Yeah, we got a nice jingle from him that time.
Yeah.
It was just a support. So.
Yes.
Anyway, every blessing upon him as he's retiring. He's certainly 27 years as Archbishop. Could you imagine, as Father Marius would say?
Beautiful.
That's a long stint, that's a lot of work, and again, very spiritual man, very scriptural in his own way as well. Now the COP23, is it, or COP, I forget what COP number it was, that Gathering for Climate Awareness.
28 or 29.
That's right, it has all come to an end.
Yes.
And some of the more cynical among them, somebody sent me a picture of all the various world leaders like President Biden and Boris Johnson and all the international leaders there at this conference, and snoozing their way through some of the talks.
All right.
Whatever talk was on, the heads are down and they're snoozing, and I couldn't but sort of smile at that, because I know exactly the feeling that these poor men, it's like that often when priests celebrating at a mass or a big event or a big occasion. If you look around during the homily, a lot of the priests will be nodding off, and it's simply because they're just worked to the bone,
exhausted,
and now they finally have a moment when there's nobody at them, there's nobody looking to talk to them, they're not delivering anything. They finally have a moment's peace, and so of course the head goes down and they start. So of course the cynics would take the photographs at that time and say, "Well, look, so much for their worry, their concern."
It's been going on a few days, Father. A good while.
It has. They're all headed away at this stage, and then of course the other cynics would be looking at all the motor cavalcades of security that accompany some of these leaders, and all the planes that they.
In and out of.
And wondering how was that helping
the climate.
So it's a little bit unfair. I mean, it's I think to sort of focus in on these things a bit excessively and say, well, they should practice what they preach, and certainly we all should do that. We should point the fingers at ourselves and see that at least the world leaders are coming together and they're conversing about these things. And Pope Francis is certainly having his impact through Laudato Si and his continuing reminder to us of care for creation.
Yes.
And look, it says there, COP26 it was, the meeting on the environment. And the Pope is warning us through the Vatican News there now of God's judgment for our failure to care for creation. It's there in the book of Genesis that we are stewards of creation. And it's a gift to us, and we don't own it. And
then the future children, that's what they were mostly talking about too, Father, the generations to come.
Yeah, that's right. What legacy will we leave for them, So it's a bit like the land your house is built on. If you think you own your house or you don't own your land, you have a part sort of share in the surface of the land by all accounts. But if there's any oil or gold or minerals or treasures found underground, it's not yours, even if you own the land, if the land is registered in your name.
That, Who owns it then?
The state. The state.
Oh, right.
So if you found like the Arda chalice or something, buried underground on your land or something rare or precious, it wouldn't be yours. You wouldn't be.
No, that would be the churches. That would be all right.
All right. But a bar of gold or three.
We wouldn't mention that.
Slip it away into the vault. And really, I just mentioned that because when we think about the fruit of the earth, in a way, is a sheer gift from God. I mean, if it wasn't for the rain and the soil and the sunshine and all the other things,
we wouldn't have it.
So it's not ours to kind of plunder and pillage, and I think this is really what the Pope is trying to say, So in a letter to the Catholics of Scotland, Pope Francis prays for wisdom and strength for all of those leaders at that meeting on the environment, and warning that this occasion must not be wasted lest we have to face God's judgment. So it's pretty strong, pretty strong.
Yes.
And it's true that we'll all be called to account, see that nothing gets wasted. It's there in the scriptures.
Yes.
Time is running out, he said in a letter to the Catholics of Scotland, which was made public earlier this week by the Archdiocese of Glasgow. He said, the occasion mustn't be wasted lest we face God's judgment for our failure to be faithful stewards of the world that he has entrusted to our care. He expressed his regret at being unable to attend the conference. It would have been very interesting if he was there in Scotland to meet with Scottish Catholics. I did hear tell of a possible visit. I think he going to Scotland. Not sure if that's been arranged or not. However, the Pope said he was grateful to the faithful for joining in prayer for his intentions and for the fruitful outcome of the meeting, which is facing one of the great moral issues of our time, the preservation of God's creation, given to us as a garden to be cultivated and as a common home for our human family. So he called for wisdom and strength for all the leaders charged with guiding the international community as they seek to meet the grave challenge with concrete decisions inspired by responsibility towards present and future generations. So interesting, and obviously weighing in behind that, and I'm sure seeing that in the care that we and the energy we pour into caring for creation, it will overflow into our care for the poor.
Yes, of course.
I mean, that's really what he has in mind.
Well, yesterday, Father, there was a mass in Assisi for the poor, and the Pope was there too.
Okay.
It was beautiful.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. Well, there you are, giving his priority to the poor then.
Yeah.
And like the witness that he's giving in coming and attending these kind of occasions and reinforcing them with his presence and with what he's saying is reminding us of our huge responsibility in that regard.
Creation,
too.
exactly.
And so that the two go together. That's why, did I bring it in? I didn't. Archbishop Dermot's document there, the cry of the earth, the cry of the poor.
Oh, yes.
The two.
Yeah, because there's such
the
a
same
lot
sentence.
of people who are suffering from no food and, can't grow anything, no rain, and then there's other parts where it's getting drowned. So it's really...
Yeah. It's all a bit messed up.
Yes.
So to play our part, at least in some way. So very good. Let me see what else is written. He says, may all of Christ's followers in Scotland renew their commitment to be convincing witnesses to the joy of the gospel and its power, to bring light and hope to every effort to build a future of justice, fraternity and prosperity, both material and spiritual.
Okay.
So the two go together. Anywhere there's a moral question like this, we can always link it back and direct it to the spiritual component of it. The two really go together so often,
Wonderful.
So the conference has come to an end, and indeed our responsibility continues. I'm not sure what action is likely to follow from it. I'm sure there'll be certain aspirations by to reduce emissions by such and such amount, and by such and such a year, this kind of thing. But playing our part in all of that too is so very important, Anyway, we'll keep the word going out here all the while, and certainly join with the Pope in all of these things too. It's very good. We got a nice email from Father Sam Randall.
Oh.
You remember Father Sam?
He
was here with his wife and is doing marvellous work now that he's arrived in Australia and beginning the journey to try to establish Radio Maria in Australia. So he sent an email. He says, thank you for your prayers and for keeping in contact. And there was a lady in Offaly, remember I said her son is in Melbourne, and that he might be interested in making contact. So I sent on the contact details, and hopefully that they'll be able to link up. So he was just echoing that how it's difficult to be a Catholic in Australia. No more than here, like the certain amount of media negativity and opposition that we experience. Not all the time, but it's there. We're mindful of it, and those who unfairly, really, I would say, judge the Church in the wrong, without balancing it with all the good that's continuing to be done all the while. So he's basically describing that situation for us in Australia, Now he says the Radio Maria studio in Australia, the building they have, is in a fairly depressed and a rather run-down area of Melbourne. And he says the police have advised that we don't advertise that we are a Catholic organisation. So I'm not sure what the local situation must be there.
Gosh.
Sounds a little bit tough.
Yeah.
The building is pretty vulnerable with 36 windows, and although there's mesh over all of them, we know what that's like around here as well. Some are broken. It's pretty depressing. So the coordinator who works for them has been organising things, and she lives and works about a half an hour away. And she's suggesting that maybe they should find another building.
Right.
So that's where they're at in Radio Maria Australia, trying to figure out,
settle down, sit somewhere that they can trust.
Is this the right place? You know, on the one hand, it might be a good place to be if it's a deprived area. You know, bring a bit of life and hope, and you'd meet the most wonderful people in those sort of areas
the people who are there would be delighted to see it there, Father.
So committed. So there is that. So how to work around that too. He says the building is owned by the Syro-Malabar community. That would be an Indian Catholic in communion with Rome. It's been left derelict for a couple of years, and Radio Maria took it over and began paying the rent on it. So in the surrounding community, it's quite mixed with many Muslims, and the local church is quite depressed, is the word he uses here, struggling, I suppose, really. Yeah. It's unlikely that there might be many local volunteers wanting to support our mission. So it's a tough decision. I mean, that's like you're back on page 1, really.
Yes.
How do we...
Big decisions
what
to make there.
What do we do? So I know Father Michael, I maybe you weren't involved in I just remember him speaking about these conversations, and Mark McCarthy trying to find this particular location and this building for Radio Maria. There was a couple of years, I think, back and forth, and what about here, and what about there, and maybe this, and maybe that. Just really tough going to try to figure all that out. In words, he says, however, onwards and upwards, he says. He's just mentioned there he might need a bit of help, and he asked me if I know anybody to help write the book, the story of their own faith journey. Right. Because I suggest that to him. He's interested in doing that certainly as well. So he just said, thanks again for hosting us so generously, and for encouraging Miriam as well. She's a bit shy of the microphone, so it's lovely to have her here. And he says, I'm so blessed to have Miriam, and one of the and just the help that she gives in her gentleness and humility. So may the Lord continue to bless your wonderful endeavours for the kingdom of God. So that's Father Sam Randall there for Radio Maria Australia. So you can see it's very early days out there, and that can't be easy. No. They are streaming online, all right, and I just found on the World Family I think website there, it can be found online, but they don't have microphones. There's no program content.
Gosh.
They have a stream going, but I think it's just constant music.
Right. So it's hard, Father, because people maybe would really like to hear from them. I can't.
Yeah, you see, not until they really get a studio proper and get the gear and the equipment that say the likes of what we have now, you know. So, God bless them. That's
keep them in the prayers, Father.
Keep them in the prayers. And if anyone knows anybody out in Melbourne, Australia, or maybe close by who might like to just get in touch and offer some little support, even if it's only prayer support, let us know. We'll pass it on to Father Sam, and he'd appreciate certainly any locals who are in the know, you know, and can kind of help and guide things along, you know. So very good. Eileen was in touch. Please remind us again how we can obtain a plenary indulgence. You can do this anytime in November. I hope to get to confession today, so it's my chance to get the indulgence. In fact, the indulgence is available every day this year. And I'll just open up next year's liturgical calendar now for November, and it'll have it written down for us there. But it's very straightforward. It says, the faithful who visit a cemetery and pray for the dead may gain a plenary indulgence applicable only to the holy souls on the usual conditions once per day. Now for next year they've also said the 1st to the 8th of November, but for this year it's the full month of November. So who visit a cemetery and pray for the dead, and then praying for the Holy Father's intentions, the Our Father and a Hail Mary, and then getting to Mass, receiving a Holy Communion, and getting to confession plus or minus a week of the day that you're looking for the indulgence. So if you get to confession, say the beginning of November, the middle of November, something like that, you get all the days in.
Still applies,
and it'll apply every day then. And if you're not able to visit a cemetery for good reason, you're housebound or nursing home or any of these things, a kind of like a spiritual communion, and just remembering the dead, sort of a visit. And what might be nice is just, and lots of people do this, I have them all, quite a few of them on the wall in my office, is the little memorial cards of the dead that you have them in front of you. Yeah. That's a kind of a virtual visit to a cemetery, I suppose.
Yes. Pray for them every day, Father.
Well, and this is what the Church is basically asking. Look, not just November.
Pray for them every day.
Yes. Every day. So just keep that in mind. So thanks for that, Eileen. It's very simple. So again, visiting a cemetery, if it's possible, praying for the dead, praying for the Holy Father's intentions, getting to Holy Mass, receiving a Holy Communion, and get to confession. So if you're getting to confession today, thumbs up. Well done. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Now I have a question that maybe for after our music break for you, Roisin.
Oh my gosh.
That'll put it up to you now. So you know the answer. We've spoken about it before. So there's no fear.
Okay, everybody, phone in the answer for me.
Be at the ready to come to help. So we have a nice bit of music lined up. Eva's looking after us on the mixing desk. Bernadette Farrell's Renew Me, Lord. But in the meantime, we'll give you our contact details once again.
Text WhatsApp at 089 467 2000. Email info@radiomaria.ie. Phone Thomas 014123456. And then again, you can write what if you really like to. Radio Maria Ireland, Unit 8, St Anthony's Business Park, Ballymount Road, Dublin 22.
Very good. You have them. Excuse me, you have them all learned off. Good, we'll pause for a little bit of music and we'll be back very shortly after this. If you want to drop a comment as well, actually on our social media, that's another good way of just getting in touch with us as well. So thanks, Eva. We'll listen to Bernadette Farrell.
For
Piece of music there, Bernadette Farr. Nice liturgical piece, Renew Me, Lord. So thanks for that, Eva. Now, the question that Liam was putting, he was obviously listening to you speaking, I think, maybe on Join the Team, maybe lately. Uh-huh. He was wondering, is St. Anthony's bread Holy Communion?
I don't think so, Father. No.
No, it isn't. No, but you know, you better know it better than I do.
Well, Father, I was only a little baby in a cot when I got it.
Still. Yeah.
But no, I believe you can get it down in Merchant's Quay. You know,
the Franciscans.
Yeah, and Mum, as I said, Mum brought it up to the hospital and asked the nurse to give it to me, and she said no, she couldn't. And then there was a younger nurse there, and she said, "Oh, yeah, I'll do it." And then obviously Mum went off home, and when she came back in again, she used to come in every day because she had the death pass, and I wasn't supposed to live too long. And then they were all around the cot, and she said the master of the hospital came over, and she thought I had died, but he said this is a miracle, and anyway, but I'm here now, Father, and like the proof of the pudding is, I always tell this because we had all Irish names, you know, Roisin and Eilish and Grania, and the child that was born after me is Antoinette, after St. Anthony, you know, so St. Anthony, I've known about him forever. So I'm not quite sure about the bread, but I don't think it's Holy Communion.
And no, it wouldn't be. No. It couldn't be really. But have you ever dropped into the Merchant's Quay and the Franciscans there to are they still doing that?
Oh, they are. They're feeding. They do, Father. They feed all the people, or all the homeless people and everything.
Up the road in Church Street, and the Capuchins are...
No, they're in that church, Father.
Merchant's Quay too?
It's on the side of the Liffey.
Yes, that's right. It's Adam and Eve's, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just there, yeah.
But they're kind of catering for drug addicts, I think, as well, aren't they? Particularly Merchant's Quay. Yeah. But I think there's Brother Kevin, isn't it, in the Capuchins?
Oh, he's the Capuchins, yes.
So they're just up across the river.
They're on the other
Church
side,
Street.
They're on the other side, yeah.
But it's something I haven't come across. I mean, I visit the Franciscan Church down in Cork regularly, and the Capuchins in Cork, there's two of them there too. Yeah. Never came across it there over the years.
Well, I just, Father, because of my history and Mum and all that, sure, I've known about it from as knee height to a grasshopper, as they say. So like, I mean, I've always, my son is Christor Anton.
Okay, good. That's two solid saints in there too. Yeah. So I suppose it's linked to their care for the poor, really, and feeding the poor. They specialise, the Franciscans in that, obviously. Yeah. And St. Anthony, of course, a great Franciscan saint, is right. Yeah. Anyway, that was Liam in Letterkenny. He'd heard you speaking about it and was just wondering.
Oh, well, there you go now, Liam. I don't know much about it other than my mum told me, like, when I was a child growing up, and I've always known about it, you know.
But I would say there is a link to the same idea of Holy Communion being, again, food for the journey and the healing and you know, sharing in the divine life that food gives. Of a much higher order, I would say, even than St. Anthony's bread, good and all as that might obviously be.
It was a miracle from him, Father, really, you know.
But no, it couldn't be the Holy Eucharist. That wouldn't be right, because it's obviously only in the context of Holy Mass and that too, you know. So very good. Thanks for that, Liam. Great to hear from you, and thanks for that too. Here's an email looking for a song request. I'll put that in there. How Great Thou Art. We play that too from time to time. It's a Judeline, I think, is right to us there. So we'll add that into our playlist for you. I'd mentioned a few weeks ago, and I'm just mindful that next Saturday afternoon will be the Mass, the 41st anniversary Mass for the death of Frank Duff. That'll be in the Pro Cathedral next Saturday. I hope I'll drop along to that as well. Bishop Tom Deanahan will be the principal celebrant and the homilist there as well. Always a wonderful occasion, a full occasion. And just mindful then of Frank Duff and his extraordinary genius. And I mentioned how his writings have been republished in 6 different books.
Yes.
And so each of the books has about 20 or so of his articles, which are fascinating. And the first one here, this one has always stayed with me. It's always kind of tickled me a little bit. Just Frank Duff speculating a little bit, because he always writes a little bit, it's not unconventional, but just a bit different approach to things. And the first article is on the human mind.
Oh, right.
And I'll share with you a little bit of it, because he just has such amazing insights. And the argument is, that we only use a fraction of our brain, and 10% or whatever it is, and that science is still discovering the brain is an extraordinary instrument, and we have never really used its full capacity. Excuse me. Except for some of these savants, which would be very rare situations where some little accident or some little electrical connection was established in the mind, and these absolute geniuses come shining through. We see it in the great maybe musicians or those great intellectual capacities in one department or another.
Yes.
And they're very focused, and they're just pure genius. But Frank's idea was that our Blessed Lady, Frank's idea is that because of sin coming into the world, that our intellect is darkened, our will is weakened, that we're not at full capacity as a result, because we're going to die. We've lost immortality in the body, that is.
Yes.
And so we've lost an element of the capacity of the mind and its functionality. So because Our Lady was conceived without sin, this is the point he makes, her mind
was perfect.
Perfect, because she was assumed into heaven, and nothing imperfect gets into heaven.
Yes.
So her mind, she had 100% use of her mind.
Yes.
And the way he puts it is that this would have made such a or it makes for some interesting implications to how she would receive the angel's message, how she would have perceived everything, how she pondered these things in her heart. Everything would have been crystal clear. So she wouldn't, the way we're a bit slow, that we need things repeated, and it's hard to learn off the numbers.
Exactly.
We need to repeat stuff over and over to remember it.
Yes.
Or learning a language, it just takes so much effort and repetition.
Yes.
Our Lady would have had none of that, because she had the perfect mind that she would have to learn, because obviously the mind would need to receive information, but that once she had learned a thing, there was no need for repetition. There was no need for
it stayed.
It stayed perfectly, because we see the capacity of the mind in its limited form anyway as being an extraordinary instrument. So Frank just makes these lovely ideas that he said, even though Our Lady would have possessed a brain of 100% potency, it wouldn't mean that she would be found exercising it all, showing a universal knowledge, because she would have she'd be able to exhibit such a full range. She would still need to be taught. She'd be have an encyclopedic mind in retaining things, but she would still need to be taught. And what she was not taught, she would ordinarily not know, because you have to be taught to know. So, that's a very simple sort of idea. She would have an unparalleled comprehension and an unfailing memory. Anything you would have said, she would have remembered. To her, the learning of a language would be only the giving to her of a sufficiency of instruction to cover the ground. No need for the million painful repetitions which we require. She would assimilate knowledge effortlessly. So it's just a lovely idea to bring to that. And he says a mother wishes to give herself to her child. So more than any natural mother, Mary would yearn to give herself totally to her human children, not only in the order of grace, but in the order of natural qualities and gifts as well.
Beautiful.
So a share in her mind and her capacity. She wants to develop her children, and we can confidently go to her in this matter of improving our mind and of opening up our latent aptitudes, which could be utilised for good and thus give glory to God. It's a lovely idea.
That's beautiful.
So if she has all this clarity of mind and thinking, if we come to her, she'll want to share that with us. All of this suggests horizons alluring and without limit. This torpid intelligence, kind of lazy and darkened intelligence of ours, must be confronted in the same way and by the same means as we face up to the question of spiritual restoration. As the intelligence shared in the withering of the soul, so it will partake of any uplifting of the soul. The two are intimately united, and Mary is mother of both. So he's basically saying that in the action of the soul stimulating the mind, the sacraments and so on, if we put ourselves into the hands of Mary, then what will she not contribute then to increasing, bringing into function that allegedly inaccessible 2/3 of the brain, or at least he said he would say that we would be led to a fuller use of that part of the brain that we have, which we have and which we're not utilizing for what it is intended as a thinking apparatus. So the consecration of our mind in that way to Mary would guarantee that it would be using aright and placed at the full disposition of God, so that we would be using it aright. So in other words, the part of the brain that we have, and it is true certainly in Frank Duff's case, because the genius of the man with all the stuff he came out with.
He was a genius.
So close to Our Lady that he had this acuity of mind and obviously grace entering in to help use that intelligence well. So that's a different kind of you don't read that everywhere.
My goodness, it's amazing, Father, isn't it?
Fascinating idea. And well worth pondering over ourselves. What must it not be like to have the full capacity of the brain? There's one or two movies have been made about these things, and the superhero in one movie I saw anyway, they had full capacity of the brain. It just turned into a kind of a god almost. that was just a movie, but that wouldn't be the case at all. But it would certainly give us an insight and sense of, I suppose, connection with God or presence of God.
Connection, right and wrong.
Yeah, it would enhance our relationship with God and with one another. Really.
Yes. Beautiful.
So there we are. Bit of Frank Duff.
He was a genius, Father, wasn't he?
He was a genius. Now you can give him the label, most certainly. And he used his mind so well. And obviously his deep faith opened up huge possibilities in helping the poor and in his great intellectual
he did great capacity. Work, Father.
Good. It's 12 o'clock now, so thank you all for your company today. Lovely to have you with you. Thank you, Roisin, and you will stay, no doubt, and pray.
Oh yes, I will indeed, Father. Thank you very much, everyone, for looking in at us.
Do and for connecting us, and do get in touch with us as well. Now, thanks to Eve on the mixing desk, we'll pause for our Angelus now and our midday prayer.